You're listening to episode 53 of Burning Brightly, How to Reach Any Goal by Just Changing Your Thoughts. This is Burning Brightly, a podcast for Christian moms who are feeling called to build a business and share their light with the world. I'm Bonnie Wiscombe, a life coach, mom, and entrepreneur, and I'm honored to be your guide as you face this business building adventure full of highs, lows, and everything in between. This is where we help each other find the courage to shine. Hey friends, before we get started this week, I want to make sure that you know about Podcast Jumpstart. It's coming this next week on July 2nd at 10 a.m. Pacific time. It is a free online event where I'm going to teach you the framework for launching your new podcast in just 2 weeks. Yes, that's right. 2 weeks you can get a podcast up and running. I promise you can do it. I've taught a bunch of people how to do it already, and I can't wait to show you. Again, it's totally free. Click the link below to register, and I can't wait to see you there. Okay, friends, today we are going to talk about how to reach any goal, and I do mean any goal, personal, professional, social, I don't care what goal you have, physical, health, whatever it is. I'm going to teach you a handful of steps to get there. And they're going to be a little bit different than you may be used to hearing. Usually we're used to hearing set a goal and then break it down into steps and take each one of these steps. But what we're going to talk about today is instead how to change your brain so that you are more likely to reach this goal, because there's a lot going on up there that we may not be aware of. And unless we change it, we are not going to make any progress. So first of all, what we need to do is have just a little bit of a lesson, science lesson here. I am not a neuroscientist. I don't know a lot about this stuff, but the things that I've learned have been fascinating as I've become a certified coach. So I want to teach you something that is going to be really important to understanding why our brain believes and acts in specific ways. So our brain sets up these paradigms and these belief systems for a reason. The main reason is because it keeps us safe. That's our brain's number one priority, is to survive, to keep us safe. So it creates these paradigms, these belief systems to keep us in a place where we feel comfortable. Have you noticed how uncomfortable you feel when you go someplace really new? If you've ever traveled to a foreign country and everything is different, it is a little bit traumatic to your brain. It's like, oh, I don't know where to go to eat or to the bathroom, or these basic survival things we don't know anything about. We can't understand what people are saying. We can't read the signage. It's really scary. And so our brain creates these systems to put things in boxes so that we feel safer and we can take care of ourselves the way we need to. It also helps us make sense of the world around us. When things are confusing, our brain has to work a lot harder and expend more energy than normal. So it wants to make things very simple for us. And that's what these paradigms and these systems do. Now, recently, I've been reading a book called Worthy by Jamie Kern Lima. Highly recommend it. I love her. She is a delightful entrepreneur, has a beautiful story. And now that she's made $1 billion building her cosmetic brand and selling it, she is now dedicating her life to teaching people how worthy they are and how they are worthy of reaching any goals they have. So I really recommend the book. But inside the book, she talks about a portion of the brain that is fairly unknown to us lay people, and it is called the reticular activating system. So I want to talk about this system really quickly. The reason the reticular activating system is important is because one of its main purposes, it has a lot of purposes, but one of its main purposes is to connect the subconscious brain with the conscious brain. So it takes the things that we may not generally be paying attention to, and it connects it with the conscious side of things. I took a drive recently with my kids. It was a 12-hour-long drive. I was the only driver. And what I noticed when I was thinking about this reticular activating system was all of the things that my brain was not paying attention to. So your brain gets constant stimulus at all times. Just sitting here, I'm noticing lights on me, the camera, my microphone, some important things, but there's lots I'm not noticing. I'm not noticing the other things in my room. I'm not noticing the sun shining. There's a lot of things I'm tuning out so that I can stay focused on what I'm doing in this moment. It would be so overwhelming for your brain to pay attention to everything. And on this drive, I noticed the same thing. The things that I wasn't particularly paying attention to that my brain was tuning out was the mountains I was driving along. I was driving along a lot of mountainous roads. I wasn't paying attention to the cliff or the rocks next to me. I wasn't paying attention to the little sounds in the car and outside of the car. I wasn't really paying attention to smells in the car, the feel of my clothes or my jewelry on me, or the bug splatters on the windshield. I was ignoring most of these because they weren't necessary in the moment. But what was I noticing? Well, really essential things like if there was an obstacle in the road, the cars all around me. I was noticing rain when it started raining on us, or any other adverse driving conditions, because these were critical for our survival. I was driving 80 miles an hour down the freeway. I had to be paying attention to the things that could cause me or my family harm. A funny example was there were multiple dead deer on the side of the road. So sad. And I would mention to my kids, oh, do you see that deer? But we were moving so quickly that for them to look up and notice, most of them missed it. And my younger son was kind of upset about this. I missed the deer, but I saw every last one of them. Why? because they were potential hazards for me and my family. So I was constantly scanning the road. Now, if the deer had been, a mile off the road in the field, I wouldn't have noticed because my brain was so focused on the road and those hazards. So start to pay attention when you are doing something, all of the things that your brain is not noticing, and you will understand just how powerful this reticular activating system is. It pays attention to the things that matter most. So what we want to do in order to reach our goals is to tell it what to pay attention to. Why? Well, because our belief system is set up a certain way because that has been what served us in the past. But if we want to reach new goals and beliefs, we have to tell it to pay attention to different things because we are stretching and growing ourselves. We do this through changing our beliefs. As a life coach, I teach people how to change their beliefs so that they can change the world around them and the life that they have. If someone told me before I started this drive with my family that there was a lot of rock slides happening in the area, guess what I'd be paying attention to? Those mountains I was driving along, right? There was a lot of these rocky cliffs that I was driving along, but I wasn't particularly paying attention to them because they didn't pose any sort of hazard to me. If there was a rock slide happening, you better believe I would be paying very close attention to those mountains and those rocks, okay? So the first step to reaching any goal is to choose what to believe. And then our reticular activating system goes to work finding evidence that is true and making that belief even stronger. All right, so let me give you an example in regular life. The past few years, I've started seeing wrinkles on my face. I'm 44 now, and I've noticed that my face is changing. I can see evidence of aging that I never saw before. But what I've learned as I start seeing these wrinkles is that my brain believes that wrinkles are bad. Gee, I wonder why. Probably because society has told me so. Celebrities and other famous people, the people that society tells us are beautiful, do not have these wrinkles for the most part, right? They fight against them. They do all these treatments to not have them because society says wrinkles are bad or they're ugly or whatever. When we have a society that does not value something and we see that thing in ourselves or our loved ones, we're going to start panicking. That's not valuable. Wrinkles are bad. Wrinkles are ugly. I don't want them for some reason. So because I have this belief that I actually didn't even know was there until I started seeing the wrinkles on myself, my brain now looks around for evidence that this belief is true. Even though I don't love this belief because it causes me angst when I look in the mirror and I see wrinkles, I think wrinkles are bad. And then I feel bad about myself. I don't want this belief, but my brain still scans for evidence. So what does that look like? When I see someone beautiful or successful with wrinkles, I actually don't pay attention to that. I ignore it. Instead, I notice everyone who does not have wrinkles. So everyone that comes up on my Instagram or on my TV or on wherever I'm looking in real life, and I know they're about my age and they don't have any wrinkles, I think, oh, how'd they get that way? How'd they do that, right? Because my brain values the not wrinkles because I keep thinking there's something bad about them. Isn't that fascinating? So my brain is looking for that evidence. I actually don't want to fight aging, and so I'm trying to actively change this belief, but it's going to take time because it's been building up in my brain for a long time. Here's another example. Let's say you're trying to eat better, but you don't currently love vegetables. That's a belief you hold on to, and you got lots of evidence of it. You've eaten peas and asparagus, and every time you eat a vegetable, it's gross. So anytime you confront vegetables, your brain is going to start saying, there's a bias there. I don't like this. I will not enjoy this. Even if it's a brand new recipe you've never tried. You believe you hate them, so your brain is going to continue finding evidence that you hate them. So you have to actively find evidence that it's not true. One way to do this is to just start giving yourself more experiences around vegetables and start saying things like, actually, roasted Brussels sprouts are pretty amazing. Don't lie to your brain. Don't try to trick it. That will not bring any success. Our brains are too smart for that, right? But you can find examples of when you do enjoy vegetables. Maybe every time I put spinach in my smoothie, it actually gives me vitamins and it tastes great. I can't taste anything bad there. So I enjoy spinach in a smoothie. So give your brain evidence to combat this belief that you want to change. Now, as we can see, that belief and the evidence are intrinsically tied together. There is really no way of separating them. So if we want to change the belief, we have to change the evidence. Here's another interesting example. There is kind of a growing network of people who believe that the earth is flat. Interesting. Why do they believe this way? Is it because they don't have access to the same science we do that proves the earth is round? No, of course they have access to all those things, but they have chosen the belief that the earth is flat. And so they find all the evidence that proves that is true or supports their belief. And they hold on to that evidence really tightly because this belief is important to them. The same thing happens with all the beliefs that we have. Okay, now let's move on to business. Let's say our goal is to make $50,000 in a year. The first thing we have to do is start believing that it's possible, especially in our industry. Once we do that, our brain will start to look for evidence that it's true. Now, we like to think that we have to find the evidence first, but unfortunately, that's not how the brain works. Even if we find evidence to the contrary, our beliefs will fight against that evidence because our brain is so latched onto the belief system that we have. Okay. So one thing you might want to do to believe this thought is start looking for other business owners in your industry that are making $50,000 or more. Boom. Evidence, 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 right? You start seeing multiple of them. And then you need to start creating some bridge thoughts to get you where you want to go. So let's say your current thought is, I can't make $50,000. That's so much money. And the thought you want to get to is, it's easy to make $50,000. Well, there's a big gap between those thoughts. You can't just wake up one day and think, it's easy to make $50,000. Your brain doesn't believe it. It won't look for evidence for it. You need to work on the thoughts that will build you up to that. Sometimes we call them bridge thoughts or ladder thoughts. All right, a few examples. If you're currently thinking, I can't make $50,000, it's so much money. What if you started thinking, I wonder how much money I could make? What's the maximum amount of money I could make in my business? Or maybe you get a client and you think, I just made X amount. How much would I have to multiply that by to get to 50,000? Or thinking something like, well, 50,000 is only $1,000 50 times, right? You start changing your hold on this thought a little bit, that thought that 50,000 is so much money and you'll never make it. Just try shifting that thought a little bit, changing it a little bit, loosening your hold on a little bit. And maybe eventually you can get to, that's not so hard. I can get there. And as you start making money, you will actually be building that evidence that it's true, that the $50,000 is easy. You'll build evidence that that thought is true, and it will become easier and easier to believe. But it's not an instantaneous overnight thing. That's impossible to do, and your brain will fight back. So start looking for the evidence and start practicing every single day. Now, I personally love to follow entrepreneurs that are making a lot of money because it's very inspiring to me, and it builds my evidence that I too can make many, many thousands of dollars in my business. It makes my own goal of $100,000 in my business seem so easy. Yeah, I can do that. She just made $5 million. 100,000 is nothing. So find evidence that's going to make it easy to believe the things you want to believe. So again, in the world, we like to think that we are going to find evidence for something and then we're going to believe it's true. But in fact, it's the opposite. Our brain believes something due to the paradigm and systems we already have set in place. And evidence that comes up and contrasts that belief actually causes us some discomfort unless we're ready to change our beliefs. Have you ever been confronted with evidence that has blown a closely held belief out of the water? It's really uncomfortable. Nobody likes that. You tend to ignore it, or you dismiss the evidence, or maybe you even insult the person who brings the evidence to your awareness. We don't like to accept evidence that is going to throw us into cognitive dissonance. It's going to tell us that our beliefs are wrong. All right. So our brains are so cautious about this because it doesn't want us to upend our entire life. If we accept this new belief and this new evidence, what if it throws everything into disarray? That's going to be a problem. So I saw this a lot when I was a missionary for my church. I was teaching people about Jesus Christ. I was trying to get them to find some more joy by accepting Jesus. And what I noticed is that people were very cautious to listen to me. Listening to my beliefs, especially if they were vastly different from their own, caused them to feel a little bit nervous. I think what was happening was they were thinking subconsciously, what if I listen to this and I believe it and it changes everything? What if I will lose the comfort or the relationships or the way of life that I've had for so long? People don't like change. Our brains resist change. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. Even when it's good change and growth that we know we want, our cortex knows we want it, we're going to push back against it because it is uncomfortable. So I saw that a lot. I was trying to teach them, and this is actually going to bring you more joy and satisfaction in life. And I was trying to gently show them new beliefs while allowing them to bring some of their former beliefs along with them. Because a big change like that, the change of a religious belief system, is very, very uncomfortable and can be a struggle for people. We can do the same thing with our business beliefs or any belief when it comes to reaching a goal. We get to choose whether or not it's hard to reach our goal. We get to choose whether or not we want to hold on to the belief that it is impossible to get there. Now, when you have those beliefs that are not getting you to where you want to go, take a look at them and don't get mad about them. Ask yourself, how is this belief helping me? Because you can guarantee it is helping you in some way. How do we know this? Because your brain believes things for a reason, whether it's a good reason or a bad reason, a reason we want to keep or not. It believes things for a reason. So is there an upside to why you're believing that way? What is it? Why does your brain continue to believe this? In the example of not making $50,000, your brain doesn't want to believe it because your brain gets to be super lazy. We can just sit around watching Netflix if we don't believe we can make $50,000. What's the point? I'm not even going to try. But if we believe it's possible, we're going to get into our office and we're going to work every single day until we hit that goal because it's possible. Why not? So how can we gently allow our brains to explore these new beliefs? How can we encourage it to look outside of its current paradigm and to explore something that might serve us a little bit better? How can we shift these beliefs that we currently hold to allow something new, something more empowering, to expand our brains to accept evidence that is going to be important in changing those beliefs? We want to gently guide our reticular activating system to pay attention to the evidence that is going to further our goals and not keep us stuck. So as a recap, to reach any goal, you have to, number one, believe that it is possible, and number two, find the evidence. And frankly, sometimes you have to find the evidence in order to believe it. So start scanning your environment for evidence that your goal is possible. If you want to run a triathlon, start following people that run triathlons at your age and with your athletic history. If you want to believe you can save the money to buy the house of your dreams, start seeing people that make the same amount of money as you who are buying their dream houses. Ask them how they did it. Learn more about them. Start allowing your brain to entertain this possibility, and then you're going to start seeing evidence everywhere. And as we train our reticular activating system to find that evidence that supports our new beliefs, we're going to completely explode our paradigm and be able to accomplish literally anything. I'm so excited for you to do it. All right, friends, I'll talk to you next week. Are you ready to start or grow your dream business? Click the link in the show notes to download the free starter guide to building a business or to schedule a free coaching call with me. And if you loved this episode, don't forget to leave a review and share it with a friend who might be feeling the call to burn a little brighter.